Have you ever opened your closet, stared at it for way too long, and still felt like you had absolutely nothing to wear? Yeah, me too. I've paid hundreds, okay, let's be honest, thousands of dollars to let strangers on the internet decide who I am as a person multiple times. And today we're talking about whether personal styling services are actually helpful or if they're just a very aesthetic way to separate you from your money. Because at some point I had to ask myself, am I paying for convenience or am I just paying for some cool vibes? Okay, quick reset. If you've never used a styling service, here's what's happening. You fill out a style quiz that asks things like, what's your lifestyle? What's your budget? What words describe your style? And you answer honestly, or aspirationally, or emotionally. Then a stylist you've never met, who may or may not live in your time zone or who may or may not be real, picks clothes for you and ships them to your house. You try on everything at home in your own lighting with your own mirrors, which is both comforting and sometimes deeply humbling. You keep what you like, you send back what you don't, and you only pay for what stays. Hi, I'm Em, and I talk about money, real life, and the financial decisions we make when we're pretending shopping is self care. And yes, I've tried every single service in this video, my own money, my own closet, and a lot of my own regrets. This is not sponsored, and no one asked me to be nice. Before we start talking about these services, I think we kind of need to talk about why these services just mess with our brains. The most dangerous thing about styling boxes is not the price, it's the psychology. Because once the box arrives, your brain immediately goes, well, I already paid the styling fee, and suddenly you're negotiating with yourself. It's fine, I'll wear it to work. It was basically free. No, it was not. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the basics of each service, how they work, how much they cost, and what you actually get. And I'll share some of my real experiences, what I kept, what I returned, and who I think each one makes sense for. This is honestly the video I wish I'd had when I first signed up. Because let's be real, no one wants to pay $20 for styling just to discover that their style is mostly beige. All right, let's start at the beginning and break down how these subscription boxes actually work and what they really cost. We'll start with Stitch Fix. It's the biggest of the styling services. They have over 2 million subscribers, and I bet you've already heard of them. In fact, maybe you even found this video because you were doing a search about Stitch Fix. And it's usually the first service that people try because it's just everywhere. With Stitch Fix, you pay a $20 styling fee and it gets credited back if you keep something. For your very first box, you get 5 items. And those items have an average price of $40 to $70. On paper, that sounds great. And sometimes it really is. After that first box, you will get a preview and you can sometimes get up to 8 items. You can also create a wish list of where you can go through their freestyle section, so their website, and indicate items that you really like. Sounds really great in theory. They have items at tons of different price points. So if you want brand names like Rails, Pistola, Varley, and even a higher end brand like Mother, they're all there. But part of the challenge with Stitch Fix is that because they're so large, they have multiple warehouses with their items. And a stylist can only pick from a single warehouse. So even though it might seem like they have a huge inventory, for the items that go into your box, sometimes that's a lot more limited. The other challenge with Stitch Fix is that they rely heavily on AI, which not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that if you don't put your requests in exactly the right way, that sometimes you end up with a preview of a whole bunch of items that you don't even want. But they have the most well-developed app. They have the most well-developed storefront for you to shop from. And as mentioned, they truly do have the largest inventory, and their website is by far the easiest to use. But here's my issue with Stitch Fix. I hate Stitch Fix house brands. They feel thin, they wrinkle weird, and they seem to pill if you just look at them wrong. These are clothes that look fine in the box, and sometimes they even feel great when you put them on for the first time. But in my experience, they do not hold up with repeated washing, and they tend to look really sad in real life. Essentially, a lot of Stitch Fix house brand items are things that you can find in a TJ Maxx or a Marshall's at a cheaper price point. And the quality of those items are often on par with places like Walmart, Target, and Old Navy, but at a higher price point. Yes, Stitch Fix offers 20% off if you keep all 5 items, which is by far the most generous discount. They also price match, and I have price matched items in the past with Stitch Fix, and it is pretty easy to do. But the 20% off assumes that at least 5 items deserve to stay in your wardrobe. And oftentimes you find that you end up justifying keeping items that you don't actually love to get to the 5 so that you can get the discount, which I don't actually think is a good use of money. I think in some ways Stitch Fix is dangerous because it feels affordable. You can get a lot of things that are on clearance on sale. Sometimes you can get things for less than $20. So it doesn't necessarily feel like you're overspending until you start to add things up. I've used Stitch Fix on and off for probably 7 or 8 years. And there have been many times that I kept at least 5 items just because I wanted the discount. I had items that I ended up donating that still had the tags on them because I kept them because I wanted the discount on another item. It just doesn't make any financial sense. I do think Stitch Fix is great if you're someone who's never subscribed to one of these fashion services before, if you just generally hate shopping and you want someone else to pick clothes out for you, or you're someone who's just looking for individual pieces. If you're someone who really loves natural fibers, probably not the fashion service for you. It's also not the greatest service if you're really looking for brand names. If you are looking for Pistola, Rails, Varley, some of these higher end brand names, or like Marine Layer. Yes, Stitch Fix carries those brands, but sometimes it's really hard to get those put in a box. Moving on to Wantable. This might be the other brand that you've heard of or the other styling service that you've heard of. Wantable is louder. They provide more items. They have the same $20 styling fee, also credited back, but they send 8 or 9 items for the first time that you get that box, which feels really generous until you realize that most of the items in the box are at least $50 to $100 each. I just found Wantable generally to be overpriced for the quality that you're getting. I don't mind spending $100, but it needs to feel intentional and it needs to feel like a high quality piece. They also don't offer a keep all discount. Instead, you get a $25 credit if you keep 3 items, which feels like being rewarded for spending more money, which I'm generally not crazy about. They also have house brands, and their house brands are very expensive, especially for the quality that you're getting. Often you can get a box that has mostly house brands, and they are anywhere from $70 to $100 a piece. I'm not that keen about spending $80 on a sweatshirt, especially if I can go to Dick's Sporting Good and get a really nice name brand one for like $40. The other thing that you have to watch for with Wantable is that once you sign up, they will start sending you monthly boxes unless you specifically cancel the service or you change how regularly you're going to get the box. You can do on demand the same way that you can do on demand with Stitch Fix, but you do need to jump through a couple extra hoops in order to make sure that you keep it as on demand and you don't accidentally sign up for getting a regular box. So, who should skip Wantable? I think if you're a budget conscious shopper, then maybe Wantable is not for you. But if you are someone who really wants to get a lot of items in a box, it's a great option. Also, like Stitch Fix, Wantable tends to have a lot of name brands, and sometimes they do run decent sales. But to be honest, Wantable, not my favorite box. Moving on to JB Stylebox. This is one that you might not have heard of before. It's a styling service out of a single store in Michigan, so it's super personalized, but it does have some extra catches as a result. It feels like an adult service. You pay a $25 styling fee, so similar to the other styling services, but it only gets applied if you spend $50 or more. The other catch with JB Stylebox is that if you don't keep at least 3 items from your box, you have to pay for return shipping. I've paid for return shipping before. It's not that expensive. It's like $10 to $15 depending on where you live. But you have to go into that service knowing that you might lose $40, not just the $25 styling fee. With JB Stylebox, you get 5 items in your first box, and those are priced from about $50 well into the hundreds. They don't have any house brands, so you're only going to be getting brand name items. And because your box is customized by one single stylist, the pieces really feel curated. It doesn't feel like just items have been thrown into the box to pad out to make sure that you get the right number. Additionally, if you're someone who keeps a lot from that styling service, I know that you can get more than 5 items. I just know I only tried it once, and once was enough for me. I knew it wasn't for me. But I do think that they're a great service if you're looking for a really customized experience. If you want to go onto their website and pick out items that you want in a box, there's a really good chance that you will get those items in a box because you're being styled by a specific individual. And it's really great if you care about quality and name brands because that's primarily what you're going to get in that box. Again, you can get this box on a regular basis, but you can also get it on demand. And you don't need to worry about things automatically being sent to you. Okay, Trendsend is a styling service that has been created by the store Evereve, which is a store that has about 150 locations across the US. Now, in full disclosure, I love Trendsend. It's the only service where I felt like they really got my style. The styling fee is $20 or it's first $1 for your first box. And it does get credited back to your purchase. You typically get between 5 to 10 items, especially with that first box, but they send complete outfits. I feel like that really matters because now you're not guessing about how to style that item. The items are more expensive though. They range anywhere from $100 to $200, but I feel like everything works and works cohesively. They also offer a 10% off discount if you keep 4 or more items. I find with Trendsend that I buy a lot less, but I definitely wore those pieces a lot more. They also carry a lot of higher end denim brands. So Good America, Pistola, Mother, AG, Page are all brands that they carry. They also have a house brand, and their house brand is pretty expensive. Most of their house brand pieces are going to be over $100, but they're generally quite good quality. So some of them are pretty heavy on the synthetic fabric. So again, if you're looking for natural fibers, not the best option for you, but the items that they do sell are quite good quality. So who is Trendsend best for? If you are busy and you are looking for a capsule wardrobe and you want high quality pieces, then this is really the service for you. It's not great if you're super budget conscious, if you have a really extensive wardrobe already and you're just looking for a couple pieces to fill out what you want. Also, not a great service if you have a ton of jeans because they tend to send you a lot of denim. Short Story is the next styling service. This is a styling service that's really designed for people who are petite, so I won't spend very much time on it. Mostly, it is good for people who are petite and who want their clothes to fit immediately, so don't want to spend extra money on tailoring. Like the other boxes, they have a $25 styling fee. They send you 5 items. They don't offer any sort of discounts, but you will save on tailoring if you are petite. They send a lot of the same kinds of brands that the other styling services send. So brands like Skies Are Blue, Liverpool, etc. They also have their own in-house brand. To be fair, I've not been super impressed by their in-house brand, but I haven't kept any of their in-house brand items, so I don't know how well they wash and wear. Finally, front door fashion. This is just a completely different category. Front door fashion isn't really a styling box the way that the others are. It's a true styling service. There isn't a specific styling fee that you can lose, but you do have to put a $100 refundable deposit down. But you get that entire deposit back if you return all of the items. So it's pretty low risk. They send between 10 to 20 items styled in full outfits. And this is the only box where every item will be on a hanger. It's packaged really nicely. It feels a lot more premium than the other brands. With front door fashion, you don't sign up for a monthly or quarterly box the way that you can with the other brands. It's almost all on demand. So you get a box when you want a box. But the items are expensive. They sell a lot of premium brands, everything from Diane von Furstenberg to boutique brands like Reset by Jane or Velvet Heart. This is not for someone who's a budget shopper. This is outsourcing your wardrobe. It's really best for people who are looking for a much more personalized experience and who have a very healthy budget. Front door fashion does offer a 10% discount if you keep an entire box. But I will tell you that boxes can range in price from $1,500 to thousands of dollars. So if you're budget conscious at all, not the styling service for you. But they do have some really beautiful pieces. And you have a conversation with your stylist in person, well, over the phone or via email or via text message before they ever style the box. It's also the quickest box to get to you. I've had cases where I put in a request for a box on a Monday and I had that box at my doorstep on a Thursday. I can't say that for any of the other boxes, especially Wantable and Trendsend. You put in a request for a box and it can take a couple weeks before it arrives at your doorstep. So the service with front door fashion is great. It's just a really different service. So here's my final take. Overall, probably the winner of these style boxes is Stitch Fix. You know, they have the best website, the best app. They're at a pretty low price point, but they also offer higher end things if you can get them. You know, it's the market leader for a reason. In terms of variety, I think Wantable is the winner here. They send a lot more items per box and they have actually pretty good activewear, but they are more expensive. If you're petite, it's definitely Short Story. They really specialize on tailoring for women 5'4" and under. I do know in my personal experience, I'm a little shorter than 5'4", and I did not feel like their clothes fit me very well, but that's a me thing, not a Short Story thing. If you're looking for outfits, then Trendsend is by far the winner. They really send curated looks instead of just random items. And then if you're looking for a luxury experience, then Front Door Fashion is for you. They send high-end boutique brands and huge boxes. So after years of trying services like Stitch Fix, Wantable, Trendsend, here's what I've learned. I used to just keep everything that came in the box, like a maybe someday pile that could have been its own closet. Now I'm way more intentional about what I keep because my wallet and the financial reset I'm trying is thanking me for it. These subscription boxes can be convenient, especially if your local options are just like mine, like they're Walmart, Target, Old Navy, maybe a Marshalls or TJ Maxx if you're lucky. But if you're budgeting like me, they're not a magic money saver. The key is being picky, knowing your style, and remembering that the $20 style fees add up faster than a pair of jeans that than a pair of jeans that you don't even love. So my advice, use them to supplement your wardrobe, not replace smart shopping, and always think before you keep. If you've tried any of these boxes, or if your closet is starting to look like deja vu and khaki, drop a comment below and let me know. And if you want more tips on saving money, building a wardrobe you actually wear, and navigating life with a little humor, hit that subscribe button. I promise, it's cheaper than another box you might never open.